Good evening, everybody. My name is Kevin Kennedy. I'm the Chief Development Officer for the City of Springfield. And on behalf of Mayor Sarno, who is at our City Council for a budget hearing tonight, I want to welcome you to this magnificent, beautiful train station. This has been a labor of love for a number of decades. Just by way of knowing what happens here, my day every day for the last 2 years has started with a half-an-hour discussion about what goes on with this station to get it to this point. And this has been a $94 million restoration. It has a 377-car parking garage. The Grand Concourse, as you look around here, is completely rented from a retail and from a bus point of view. MassDOT is constructing a new high Platform C up top at the platform. So we're using the old platform for right now. We expect that to be open around this time next year, maybe a little bit earlier, which will also give us the ability to have an additional 14 trips a day between here and Hartford. Connecticut, as some of you as train enthusiasts know, has invested hundreds of millions of dollars in their Hartford line from New Haven all the way up here. We will be a layover site for a number of their trains. And frankly, we do a lot of business with ConnDOT. ConnDOT is a very, very good organization. So with that in mind, I would also like to say we will be opening this station officially this weekend. Saturday night, there will be a black tie gala here, followed by a Sunday open house for the general public. So anybody wants to come down here Sunday, we'll be doing a little bit of a ceremony to open. And the buses will start running Sunday afternoon at 4:30, and we will be fully functional. And just by way of knowing what's here, if you want to look at a barber chair from the 1930s, behind me at the end of the tunnel is a completely restored barber chair that was here. We also have restored some of the old mail carts. That one of them is over in the corner. We have 17 of those. So this has been, I guess, what I would call, and I repeat myself, a labor of love. So welcome here. It's a great crowd. Senator Lesser has done a great job coming from Boston today. And I might add there was a huge traffic problem in Sturbridge, and they got by that. And Carlos Gonzalez and Senator Humason. Did I miss anybody? So thank you, everybody. I see Bill McGregor in the back from the SRA. I have to welcome him. And Chris Moskal is around here somewhere, the executive director of the SRA. Who has done a great job on a day-to-day basis on this facility. So welcome and thank you, and I don't know who I'm supposed to say next. Is Rick here? Did Rick want to say? Our state rep from this end of town, Carlos Gonzalez.
Thank you, Kevin. And first, let me just start by thanking Kevin and the Mayor Sarno for their vision and their leadership in making this project a reality, particularly our Congressman Neal, who has championed this issue for many years. It's great to call him our Congressman. We have a true champion in Washington, D.C., and we all know that in Washington, D.C., we need a lot more leadership, fellas like our Congressman, to continue fighting for us here. And to the State House, and also to our Senator Lesser, who's continued to keep this issue on the forefront, and Senator Humason, championing the Western Mass initiative to make sure that public transportation becomes more of a reality, not only for Boston, but throughout Western Mass. We're excited to be here in downtown Springfield with so many different activities, projects that are underway, and this becomes such a guiding light to continue the efforts. And I was just talking to Mr. Haggerty, who just mentioned what a great opportunity for this, if this was a reality today, that he would have been fighting for our citizens' ability to, on the Criminal Justice Reform Act today in Boston, and being able to get there on time and get back in here to Springfield today on public transportation. And I'm sure that all of us will talk about the economic benefits that this project brings to the forefront, particularly on jobs and living here and working in Boston or vice versa. But he mentioned how important it is to advocacy, that we can go to Boston, be able to get back and have a sit-down meal with our family. So this is very important, not only to the economic development, but to the family values that we all hold near and dear to our heart here in Western Mass. So we're excited to be alongside our colleagues in government to continue to make sure that Boston looks at Western Mass as a opportunity for all of Massachusetts to benefit from the transportation issues that are important to us all. So thank you again, Eric Lesser, and to Humison, and I look forward to be working with them in the near future. Let me introduce my great friend and colleague from the Senate, Don Humison.
Thank you, Carlos. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Don Humison. I'm the state senator from Westfield. I represent the district just a little bit west of Senator Lesser's, and I'm delighted to be here at Union Station. This is my first chance to be inside the building, and let me just say, it is beautiful. What a great job was done. Very impressed to be here. I'm also one of the co-sponsors of this legislation that Senator Lesser has put forward now, what is it, 3 years, Eric? We've been pushing it for a while. And whether it's budget amendments or a standalone piece of legislation, it is a bipartisan piece of legislation that is good for all of us here in Western Massachusetts. I've said before on the floor, when I spoke on behalf of this bill and on behalf of the budget amendment that Eric put forward, we need to know the things that are knowable about the cost of bringing high-speed rail to Western Massachusetts. And there are a lot of questions, and people ask us each and every day when they say, when is rail coming to Western Mass? And we follow up with, okay, how much will that be? And how much am I going to have to pay for a ticket? And how long will it take me to get to Boston? And how many stops are there going to be? Well, those are great questions, but we need to know the answers. And we can't know the answers until the study takes place. So I want to commend my friend, Senator Lesser, for pushing this piece of legislation, this amendment, this issue, so that we can know those things that are knowable, so that we can get the answers to these questions, and so we can know exactly what it means for us here in Western Massachusetts, as taxpayers, as commuters, as business owners, as people who want to take advantage of the economic activity going on in our state capital. We need to know the answers, and for that to happen, the study has to take place. And then we need to get going, because as I think you said last week, Eric, now is the time to get this thing passed, to get it moving so that we can know those questions and that we can begin to take advantage of support that might be down there for us in DC and across the state. So I just want to thank you again. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. Thank you for allowing me, a guy from the west of the river, to come and be here in this beautiful place today. Have a great afternoon. With that, let me introduce a good friend and a great state representative, a colleague that I'm proud to work with, even if he is a Democrat. Senator Eric Lesser.
All right. So first, let me say it's good to be home in Springfield after a long day on the road, on the rails, on the road. We had thunderstorms, we had traffic jams, train delays, you name it, but we're here, and I don't want to say anything before I just say a very special thank you. We all owe an incredible debt of gratitude to our Congressman Richard Neal, who worked for 40 years to reopen this station and is reopening next week. And a very special thank you as well to Mayor Sarno. Under his leadership, Springfield is a city on the rise, and we are all so excited to be a part of that and to fight for that and to work for that. And central to those efforts is a good friend of mine, someone I've known a long time, a true pro, someone at the center of all the exciting things. You have a fun job. All the exciting things happening in the city. Certainly Union Station is probably the most noticeable, but also the new MBTA railcar facility, all the new work happening with the Cultural District, with the Dr. Seuss Museum, with the developments at MGM, all comes through the office of our friend Kevin Kennedy. So Kevin, thank you for your work and for being here. We appreciate it. And I just also want to give a very special thank you to a good friend. We came in the same year. We were on the ballot at the same time. We got through our first terms together. Now our sophomores, I guess, is the term. You know, in our time in office. A great friend of mine, and that's State Representative Carlos Gonzalez. Thank you, Carlos, for your work. And Carlos made a very good point, and he mentioned the criminal justice reform efforts happening today at the State House. And let's not forget, transit justice, economic justice, and equality are inextricably linked. We were in Palmer today, and I saw a sign that I think really sums it up, which is that the failure to connect Western Mass with fast, reliable public transportation is a form of economic injustice against an entire region, and they are linked, and we will talk about how they are linked. And so, if you watch TV or you watch, cable news, this is a time when the two political parties are not exactly getting along so well. That's a little bit of an understatement, but someone who I have immense respect for, who I consider a friend, who I've worked with on veterans issues, on efforts at the Soldiers' Home, who has been a champion of rail and of this item in particular since the very first day I filed it, and someone who I have worked with on numerous issues but is working hand in glove with us on getting this across the finish line. You heard from him now as State Senator Don Humison. So Don, thank you for being here. So we began our day at South Station in downtown Boston, the heart of Boston's financial district. We kicked things off at the heart of rush hour. Very busy, bustling. People didn't know exactly what was going on, but kind of rolled with it. And it was a fun morning. But let's be honest for a second. If your view of Massachusetts is the platform of South Station, you have a very different perspective on how things are going in this state than if you come from this end of the Commonwealth. And you couldn't throw a baseball from that platform without hitting a construction crane, without hitting a skyscraper, without hitting a trading floor or a bank or a financial institution. Boston has become the envy of the world, one of the capitals of biotech, of course, education, of healthcare, of the new innovation economy that we hear so much about day in and day out. And those innovations are a good thing. That growth and that opportunity is good for the entire state. We all want and support those efforts. But if you leave the 617 area code, the story is very different. The story is one of communities like Springfield and Palmer and Worcester, all three cities that we visited, of course, on today's tour. Proud industrial centers, proud manufacturing centers that are still struggling to make the transition to a new economy, to an innovation and a tech-focused economy. But there is a path forward, and there is a way to make that transition. We're doing it with the new railcar facility that's opening in East Springfield, a collaborative effort between two administrations, Governor Patrick and Governor Baker, and of course the city. But isn't it ironic that in the city now, sons and daughters of Springfield will be making MBTA railcars, but we can't get on a train to actually use the railcars that our citizens are going to be making? Something about that feels like it needs to change. So, why is this so important? Why is this project so essential? Well, one of the points we made in Boston, that we made in Worcester, that we made in Palmer, and that we're making now, of course, here in Springfield and in all of Western Mass, is that this isn't a Springfield project, okay? This isn't a Western Mass project. This is as much a Boston project as it is a Springfield or Palmer or Worcester project. And here's why. Here's why. The single biggest challenge Boston faces, and we hear it time and again, Don and Carlos and I hear this time and again from the Boston area delegation, is the out-of-control cost of living, the out-of-control cost of housing, strangling traffic and congestion. No one can afford to live there. The rents are out of control, costs are going up, there's no room to build anything. And as I mentioned, there's construction everywhere. They're just at capacity. And eventually, Boston's ability to grow, Boston's ability to remain a tech center, Boston's ability to attract the great talent from all over the world that they currently attract will be in jeopardy if they don't figure that out. If they don't figure out a way to make housing more affordable, if they don't figure out a way for middle-class people to live and to prosper and to thrive in that city. Well, what do we offer? We offer, in a way, the inverse challenge. We have great homes here. This is the city of homes here in Springfield. We have great housing stock. We have great open space. We have great quality of life. We have very good public schools. What we lack is access to high-paying jobs in those innovation and tech-oriented fields that we know are the future of the modern economy. So an exchange can happen. We get access to that red-hot economy. They get access to great cost of living, great housing. It lifts everybody. Everyone benefits. That's why the Boston Chamber of Commerce supports this. That's why we were joined in South Station with some of the leading elected officials in Greater Boston. That's why we were joined by a broad coalition of business groups and elected officials in Framingham. That's why we were welcomed by the Worcester Chamber of Commerce when we stopped there today. That's why we had 200 people at the Steaming Tender restaurant in Palmer just an hour before here, because they understand that this is a project for the entire Commonwealth and that helps everyone. And so people might say, oh, this is too expensive, or oh, this is too ambitious, or oh, Western Mass doesn't need this, or oh, the population can't support it. Well, here's what I say to that, because we've all heard this, right? And we hear this all the time. Our taxes paid for the big dig. We're still paying for the big dig. We pay the sales tax that supports the MBTA, even though we're 55 miles from the closest MBTA stop. And you know what? My guess is most of the people in this room will gladly pay their fair share and continue to, because we understand that a rising tide lifts all boats, and we benefit from a growing, vibrant Boston just as much as other communities and other people do. But the deal has to be fair. And we need the same investment and we need the same intention as every other region in this Commonwealth. And when we have a political system, quite frankly, that is okay with spending $3 billion on a 4-mile extension of the Green Line in Somerville connecting Leechmere to Tufts, when we can't even get a study passed for a 55-mile section of track that would transform an entire region of our Commonwealth that desperately needs it, we have a political challenge on our hands, not a financial or budget or logistical challenge. And that's why we need all of you. That's why we need everybody here. So I'll just close by saying this. You know, some people say to us, oh, let's wait. Or, oh, let's let the other programs in Springfield come online. Let's see what happens with MGM. Let's see what happens with the Dr. Seuss Museum. Let's wait and see what happens with the rail car facility. People tell us, oh, let's delay this for another time. Or, oh, the budget's too tight. Or, oh, there's too many things going on. We can't handle it. We don't have time. There's other priorities. There's other things that are more important. Well, let me leave you with this. I was in Palmer just an hour or so ago. They called it the town of 7 railroads. 7 railroads pass through Palmer, and not one of them stops in Palmer. They used to, but in 1971, the train stopped coming, and the community has been promised that investment ever since, and it hasn't come. And when we finished our event in Palmer, an elderly woman, came over to me and stopped us. We were trying to hustle to get out of there to get here in time, but we stopped, and I listened to her. And she came over closely, and she said to me, you know something, I've worked very hard my whole life. And I've gone through job after job, because every time I get a job around here, the company downsizes, there's a layoff, things close, and I need to go look for work. I need to go get retrained, I need to go back to school, and I need to go get another job. And you know what else she said to me? She said every time she changes jobs, every time she tries to go get that next job, every time she applies for the next option, the commute gets farther and farther from her home. She has to drive farther and farther every single time to find a good-paying job to support her and her family. And she's terrified of what's going to happen the next time there's a layoff, or the next time there's a downsizing, or the next time a business packs up and moves somewhere else where people are making the investments to make their region competitive and to invest in their population and in their families and their communities' potential. So to people who tell us that this project isn't a priority, to people who tell us that there's other things that deserve more attention, or that we can't afford it, or that it's too expensive, go look that woman in the eye and tell her that this isn't important, that investing in Western Massachusetts isn't important, that making sure our families have good, accessible jobs close to home and close to their families isn't important. My guess is if those folks actually make the trip to Western Mass and have conversations with those families, they're going to change their mind about this real quick. And that's where we all come in. We're at a pivotal moment here. The reason we called this rally is not by accident. Let's be honest, this thing was vetoed last year. It's our job to convince the governor to not veto it this time. And the way we do that is by respectfully but passionately making our case about how important this is. Because we cannot continue in a state and in a Commonwealth that sees all of the growth, all of the opportunity, all of the job creation hyper-concentrated in one small place, while the rest of our communities, the rest of our counties, the rest of our cities get left behind. That is unsustainable, and that is not something that any of us as citizens of Western Mass and as citizens of Massachusetts, a Commonwealth where we fight for everyone in common, can be sustained. So thank you so much for your support, and we'll get it done. We appreciate it. Thank you.